Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Helldivers 2 video. Today we are going to discuss the history of Helldivers. Before the era of Helldivers, Super Earth was politically unstable. The paradox of too much choice paralyzed decision making. This changed with the introduction of managed democracy and computerized voting. Citizens of the Federation of Super Earth use automated voting software. They answer a few questions on the galactic wide web and the computer votes for them based on that outcome. The GWW is a network of interlinked communication devices that transmit data using quantum communication. Some critics have questioned whether the system could be potentially rigged. Suggesting flaws in managed democracy is illegal and punishable. Citizens must report dissenters immediately. The managed democracy system brought order and stability, allowing Super Earth to thrive. And anyone who says otherwise is a traitor and is committing treason. Super Earth is the galaxy's oldest known sovereign state, governed by the core values of prosperity, liberty, and democracy. All headquartered in Prosperity City. Super Earth's government is composed of many administrative level branches of government. Each ministry dedicates itself to the continued sovereignty and progress of Super Earth in their own unique ways. Those branches are the Ministry of Truth, Defense, Unity, Science, Intelligence, Expansion, Humanity, Prosperity, and Integrity. The President of Super Earth is duly elected periodically and leads the government of Super Earth. And who could question the president that was so clearly voted without any rigging in the voting system? No one could ever do such a thing. Then we have Super Earth's military, the Super Earth Armed Forces, collectively referred to as SEAF. They are the defenders of Super Earth and her colonies, split into several branches. The SEAF work tirelessly across the known universe to uphold liberty, prosperity, justice, and assure every star knows the sweet liberation of managed democracy. The Super Earth Armed Forces are commanded by the Ministry of Defense, who provide them the critical information and funds required to protect and serve across the known universe. The SEAF is divided into several branches and special forces organizations, each required to help successfully defend Super Earth and spread managed democracy. These are the Super Earth Army, the Super Earth Navy, the Colonial Defense Forces, and the Helldivers Corps. Then you have the SEAF High Command, which stands at the tip of the spear for all Super Earth Armed Forces, working in conjunction with the various ministries within the government, primarily the Ministry of Defense. High Command's purpose is to direct the Super Earth Armed Forces to assure they meet the demands of Super Earth across the galaxy. During times of war, High Command distributes major orders to all forces within the SEAF. The Helldivers particularly are given the most critical orders and are demanded to accomplish these tasks no matter the odds. Super Earth also holds multiple holidays. You have Liberty Day, which is celebrated by the citizens of Super Earth on the 26th of October. And as of recently, after the final liberation of Malevolent Creek, the president of Super Earth officially recognized April 3rd, the first full day of peace on the planet, as Malevolent Creek Memorial Day. Every year on this day, Super Earth citizens will unite for a full 3 minutes of their lunch break in solemn remembrance of those who gave their lives to free Malevolent Creek. In addition, all Helldivers have been issued a special commemorative cape, so they may carry the memory of their fallen companions into battle. Let me know in the comments down below if you were at the creek. And of course, with all this military, there must be war. The first galactic war happened in the year 2084. Super Earth finds itself encircled and threatened by 3 distinct and hostile factions: the insect-like bugs, the mechanically augmented cyborgs, and the enigmatic Illuminates. The government of Super Earth, advocating for the need to suppress these foes to safeguard its citizens' freedoms and way of life, assigns the Helldivers, a specialized combat force for missions beyond mere warfare. The bugs were one of the first alien species encountered by Super Earth during their galactic expansion. We now know them as the Terminids. The government declared them enemies as they could spell the end of mankind and were simply too dangerous to keep alive. Coincidentally, soon after the war started, it was discovered that the bugs' bodies could be broken down into a valuable resource called Element 710, which was ever since extensively gathered during the war. There is no known evidence proving that the bugs actually had any hostile intentions towards humans, but to question the validity of these claims is considered treason by the government. And obviously, since the First Galactic War, we have made contact with the Terminids once again in combat. Now, according to official records, conflict with the cyborgs started after an attack in which a group of cyborgs detonated a large explosive on District 48. The explosion is said to have killed thousands of citizens, which prompted Super Earth to retaliate against the perpetrators. Those who doubt the official story spread rumors that Super Earth has always marginalized cybernetically augmented humans and treated them poorly. Eventually, a group of them decided that they wanted to secede and become an independent government. Super Earth, aiming to be the sole power in the galaxy, didn't agree to their demands and decided to thwart their uprising before they were able to grow stronger. Despite their peaceful intentions, the cyborgs were branded as terrorists and enemies to manage democracy. Now, even more theories float around that the automatons that we now fight in the Second Galactic War are merely a puppet of the cyborgs from the First Galactic War. And now for the faction that honestly scares me the most, the Illuminate. They are said to have observed humanity for hundreds of years. They eventually approached humanity with an offering of peace. However, when Super Earth intelligence learned that the Illuminate possessed technology far beyond anything that humanity could create, peace was no longer an option. It was publicly stated that the Illuminate could not be trusted and were accused of owning weapons of mass destruction that threatened all of humanity. However, it is said that the war was actually started only so that Super Earth could steal the advanced technology for themselves. The weapons of mass destruction that were aforementioned were actually large quantities of world-destroying devices, nicknamed obliterator bombs by Super Earth. This was deemed obviously sufficient cause for a preemptive strike aimed at removing their presence from the galaxy and obtaining their highly advanced technology. When the Illuminate were defeated, Super Earth forced the Illuminate to sign a treaty which disallows them from creating an armed forces branch and requires them to turn over all of their weapons technology to Super Earth. And the First Galactic War ended with Super Earth having emerged victorious against its adversaries, with its foes vanquished and the Galactic War won. A century of peace and prosperity ensued. The Helldivers, Super Earth's elite task force, were dismissed. The remaining cyborgs were all captured and forced to work in the mines of their homeworld Cyberstan. The bugs were put into farms for production of Element 710, and the Illuminate were pushed out of the known galaxy. Faster than light travel technology liberated from the Illuminates gave Super Earth access to the galaxy and has since been used to colonize it. This period has come to be known as the Great Democratization and lasted about 100 years. Cut to present day. The year is 2224. Super Earth initiated a series of escalating special military operations which would ultimately culminate in the declaration of war on all agents of tyranny. Initially, descendants of the bugs known as Terminids breached their enclosures, reproducing and spreading chaos and mayhem throughout the galaxy. The Super Earth armed forces had been struggling to quarantine them on their farm planets and were stretched thin. Shortly after that, a new, unknown, although vaguely familiar enemy emerged on a new front, the Communist Automatons. With two enemy armies in the fray, Super Earth had no choice but to mobilize the Helldivers once again. In February, in response to the Terminid escape from their farm enclosures in the Lestrade sector and the Sten sector, scientists of Super Earth started developing the Terminid Control System, a planet-wide bug extermination network. TCS was scheduled to be built on the barrier planets of the Umlaut sector, quarantining the bugs behind them and stopping their spread throughout the galaxy. This came to be known as Operation Valiant Enclosure. Meanwhile, a robotic race of unknown origin, the Automatons, launched a surprise attack against multiple highly populated Super Earth planets in the Trigon sector and the Tsar sector. Super Earth forces were unable to prepare for it in time, and the initial defensive missions were unsuccessful, giving the bots enough time to make a significant push into the Tsar sector. The sudden emergence of the Automatons disrupted the Helldivers' efforts and allowed Terminids to advance all the way to the Orion sector. Despite suffering heavy losses, the Automaton front was briefly set aside in favor of progressing Operation Valiant Enclosure and eliminating the Terminid threat, instead of fighting a losing war on two fronts. Helldiver forces regrouped to focus on the Terminids and took back the Orion sector and eventually also the Umlaut sector. Meanwhile, Helldivers remaining on the Automaton front managed to defend the exosuit factory on Tianquan, allowing them to deploy Exo-45 Patriot exosuits against the enemy. With the help of SEAF engineers, the TCS was built and activated, covering the planets of the Umlaut sector with gas known as termicide, supposed to be deadly to bugs but safe to humans. The activation of the TCS coincided with the emergence of a new bug type, the Shrieker. With the TCS finally built and Operation Valiant enclosure ending with a success, the Terminid population had been contained and Helldivers could focus their attention back on the automatons. And thus commenced Operation Swift Disassembly, which started just after Operation Valiant enclosure ended and was the total eradication of the automatons. At least that was the goal. The first phase of the operation started in the Trigon sector. It revealed automaton broadcasts sent from Truce to outside of the galactic front. Although the details are unknown as much data was already deleted upon discovery, the second phase moved the conflict to the Severin sector and aimed to destroy the biggest known automaton production center on Tibet. Unfortunately, this task proved to be too difficult as indecision led to Super Earth forces being spread too thin. As a result, the automatons had enough time to move their production elsewhere and phase 2 ended with failure. Before proceeding with the next phase of Operation Swift Disassembly, High Command decided to focus the attention of the Helldivers on finally liberating the infamous Malevolent Creek. With unified strength, Malevolent Creek was liberated in mere hours, and the President of Super Earth decreed a Memorial Day to commemorate the fallen heroes. Phase 3 was ready to begin, and its goal was to hold ground and defend the liberated planets in anticipation of a massive automaton counterattack. In that time, the bots rolled out new types of units, gunships and factory striders. Despite the enemy reinforcements, Helldivers repelled the attack valiantly. The automatons no longer held the resources to sustain an offensive on such scale, and it was time to push back. The fourth and final phase was set in motion: total annihilation. All Helldivers were ordered to make an all-out push on the remaining bot-occupied worlds in the Severin sector. The victory came swiftly, and with the last planets liberated from the automaton oppressors, as well as the bugs contained behind the TCS, it was a time of peace for the galaxy once again. Unfortunately, peace did not last for long. Shortly after the successful construction of several new E710 farms, a giant automaton fleet arrived from FTL Jump. A day that I will not forget. The enemy forces that were wiped out during Operation Swift Disassembly were merely a vanguard to the true power of the automatons. The invading forces overran almost every planet in the Valdis sector, including the cyborg homeworld Cyberstan. The long-dreaded reclamation had begun, and the Helldivers were scrambling to defend Super Earth planets against the invasion. In the following days, automatons continued to spread into the Lycel sector, the Andromeda sector, and the Hydra sector. Losing ground at an alarming rate, Helldivers decided to build orbital defenses on the Menkent line, consisting of the planets Menkent and Lazath, in an attempt to prepare a counter-offensive against the bots. The Menkent line was established, allowing for the construction of a C-Forward command base on Vernon Wells, contributing new recruits and supplies to the warfront. The bots, unable to push through the defenses, decided to focus on a single planet, Marfark, hoping to bypass the Menkent line. Despite concentrating all of their forces on this offensive, including the resurgence of factory striders, this campaign also resulted in a resounding failure for the automatons. With the bots regrouping, the Helldivers decided to focus their efforts on gathering more E710 on Terminid worlds, as the ongoing conflict severely depleted their fuel reserves. That brief detour proved to be fatal to the war effort, as with the Terminids agitated with the act of aggression against them and the subsequent sudden counterattack from the automatons, humankind found itself pushed simultaneously on both fronts. While the Terminids were still contained behind the TCS, the Menkent line on the bot front unfortunately did not hold. Trying to minimize the damages, Helldivers dug in for a difficult defense. They suffered heavy losses and many planets fell into the Terminid and automaton hands, but through sheer grit and determination, the Helldivers were able to save enough planets to prevent a major push on both fronts. Despite that effort, the automatons had plenty of time to spread their influence to other parts of the galaxy, capturing the Ymir sector and the Trigon sector. In light of the situation on the automaton front, High Command concocted a new plan, Operation Legitimate Undertaking. Its first phase involved rescuing vital personnel working on new experimental stratagems on Chu and Penta, but due to time constraints and ongoing attacks from the bots, only one planet could be saved on time to save the precious technology. In the end, Penta was liberated first, allowing Helldivers to deploy the deadly airburst rocket launchers into battle. However, just as suddenly as it started, Operation Legitimate Undertaking had to be put on hold. The Terminid control system failed in its purpose, and over the weeks since its activation, the bugs had been slowly getting more resistant to the effects of the termicide. On Meridia, the termicide had caused the bugs' reproduction rates to explode overnight, and the planet turned into a super colony. Super Earth forces rushed to the remaining barrier planets of Arata Prime, Fenrir 3 and Turing, successfully disabling all TCS towers before the toxin turned them into super colonies as well, sparing them from sharing sharing the same fate as Meridia. With the Terminids now mutated to withstand the effects of the Termicide, and with a super colony so close to Super Earth, the bug threat was greater than ever before. Meridia started spewing a mass amount of spores into the atmosphere, causing increased numbers of infestations on neighboring planets. The Helldivers rushed to contain the outbreaks but were unsuccessful. Some of the planets remained infested. In the meantime, on the automaton front, a new order was issued. The goal was to decommission 2 million bots so that their metal carcasses could be used for the construction of MD-17 anti-tank mines. This order ultimately failed, further delaying construction of the MD-17. The combination of the failed TCS, Meridian super colony, and expansion of the new automaton fleet into 6 sectors led the government of Super Earth to officially declare a galactic war on tyranny on May 15th. This began mass industrial and economic mobilization towards a renewed effort, as well as the expansion of Super Earth Armed Forces training facilities onto choice, lightly populated planets. Since then, an effort was moved to Meridia. On Moradesh, scientists were making a new weapon, a weapon that was using dark fluid taken from the Illumina and would result in Meridia's destruction. Helldivers were ordered to go on to Meridia and inject the dark fluid into the planet. The Helldivers were successful, and this resulted in Meridia disappearing into a black hole. Or is it? Something is coming, but we will be prepared. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This was very informative for me, just making this video, learning a lot about the Helldivers lore and history, and it was nice to go over recent events that I participated in, as well as most of you, I'm sure, playing the game since launch. Comment down below what you thought was most interesting. What didn't you know before this video? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Helldivers 2 content. Become a member today if you want to support me in another way. You'll get early access to videos and live streams. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!